and a program presenter for many years. It goes back a long, long time. He's internationally published, and his commercial work is marketed through Getty Images. He's been doing a tip of the week for the outdoor photographer, and it's also available for just about anybody. He sends it out on Mondays, every Monday. And on outdoor photographer, if you're looking for more of his tips from the past, there's on the outdoor photographer website, they have archived all of has hundreds of tips there. He's been a multiple winner in the Nature's Best Windland Smith Rice Award in many categories. And he's had his, he does the safari photos. They've been honored and hung in the Smithsonian in DC and the Zico Museum in South Africa. He's published numerous times in Outdoor Photographer, and has a lot of his wildlife and scenic images on calendars published in Self-Realization Fellowship, Kodak, Audubon, Sierra Club, National Wildlife, National Geographic Traveler, and more. And if you've looked at the May issue of our newsletter, he has an article. It says 6 creative macro background tips, which is very informative and will help us. So thank you. And Russ, do you want to take it over now?
Sounds good. You just refresh my memory. 6 to 10 basically is the scoring range.
Yeah. Well, hardly any gets 6. If it's pretty bad, it's 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 okay. Is almost perfect, or very, very few problems with it. Okay. And we'd like to hear your comments, not only about anything you see that's bad, but also what's good on both sides, so we can see. And then if you could, with the image, describe what you're talking about, since we don't have any way to see on the image unless you describe like upper left corner or the bottom right.
No problem. Dave and I spoke about that earlier.
Okay.
No, I taught for 27 years, so
okay.
Teaching is in my blood. So as far as trying to help out by what it is that I can do to suggest to make a picture better, I'm going to do that. It's just innate, it's genetic from from myself to myself. However,
well, I sure appreciate you helping out with tonight, Russ. Thanks. And I think Bob's going to put the images up.
Okay. So this is the 5-6 group, and we're judging how many pictures in the 5-6 group? 3.
3 of them. 3. And I'll give the title. This is Silver Light.
Okay. And I assume black and white.
I'm sorry. Let me just interject one thing, Russ. We don't do like a first, second, third place anymore. It's just each individual image. This one's an 8, this one's a 9, this one's a 10, et cetera, et cetera.
Just scoring from here on. Okay, sounds good.
Inside China, the pressure seems to reverse course.
Okay, let me know when I'm to start, and we'll get going.
You could start. Go ahead, Russ.
Okay. I like the black and white treatment. It definitely is befitting of the subject matter. The starkness certainly lends itself to being a black and white shot. The exposure is a very tough exposure, and as a result, either the moon or the sun, because of the strong contrast, is totally void of detail, which I'd like to see, just a little bit of something in there, especially if it is the moon. My concern somewhat is the background, the mergers of the trees in the background with the primary tree. So what I would suggest you do is move to your left or to your right to eliminate that. Now, in this circumstance, you couldn't, because then the moon or the sun, I'm going to just call it the moon for the sake of the simplicity. The moon wouldn't be in alignment as to where it is kind of offset against that one branch that's growing as a diagonal on the left side of the trunk. So I like the placement of the moon, but unfortunately the trees in the background merge with the tree, the primary tree itself. This picture would have a lot more impact if that tree was offset against a blank sky with just the moon in there. The balance of the two trees on the right that aren't merging, you can see the strength of those. The ones that are behind the tree itself make it tough for the tree to stand out. With that in mind, I do like the attempt of what it is you did with the effect of the moon and the conversion to black and white. So I'll go 8 points.
Okay, this is cactus bloom.
Based on the title, what I would like to see is something much more concentrated because of the balance of subject matter here, zeroed in on just the bloom of the cactus. The thorns that are emitted from the left-hand side, especially those 3, are somewhat distracting as they are offset against black. The center here, depending on your macro capability, or maybe crop a little bit more into the file, depending on how much material is in the original raw capture. The stronger picture here is right in the center of that cactus flower itself, with that one stamen sticking straight up, and then all of the residual ones just kind of radiating out 360 degrees from it. And especially the color. The color is very harmonious in there. When I look at what it is that you have, the 2 buds that fall below the cactus flower and this one that radiates out to the left itself, given the bright highlights because of the flash that was used, the highlights are quite bright, and as a result distract from the actual flower itself. So listen to what it is that you're titling the picture and allow your photography to mimic what it is that you're titling the image, and get in a little bit tighter next time. 8 points on this one.
High Plains afternoon.
What I do like about this image is that it forces me to look around to see all the elements, and that is a positive. When I do look around the image, I'm seeing pieces that don't necessarily blend harmoniously together. The top area, the top right area with the radiating sun rays, beautiful. Love that with the birds. The brightness in the highlighted clouds, especially in the upper left-hand section, those are very, very distracting. Totally void of detail, and they really, really force the eye to go straight up to that section. My eye wants to lock in on the birds, but when I lock in on the birds, I can see especially the lead one, its left wing has a little bit of ghosting to it. So your shutter speed wasn't quite fast enough to capture that. This lower left yucca is somewhat of a distraction because it's not really balanced by anything. One could argue that the yuccas on the right could balance it, but given the rest of the subject matter, the blend of the yuccas of the lower left and those on the right aren't cohesive with the rest of the image. To me, what I would do is crop off the bottom fifth and crop off the top fourth and make it so that it's kind of a panoramic format. And the primary focal points would be the two birds kind of skimming across that nice skyscape without the bright highlights in that upper left. 8 points on this one too. Yeah, is there a way, Larry, to just zoom in on that? Because even if you zoomed in, keep going, well, yeah, now we're getting a little bit closer to what it is that I was saying. And then what you need to do is kind of crop off that maybe even that left side, not even maybe, yeah, crop off that left side with that yucca. Or, I know when I was a member of Focus, cloning was allowed. So to kind of clone out the obtrusiveness of that yucca and just have it blend in with more of the prairie land, and you'd have a stronger image. Still an 8.
Okay, since we had no 9 or 10s, why don't we go on to the F8? And there's four images in the F8 category.
Come on.
Bob is still zooming in.
Still trying to get this to work.
F key for full screen.
Yeah, I had, there we go.
Up in the top left of the navigator, just click on fit.
There.
Underneath your
Okay.
name.
Oh, it's still not fit.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, this is called A Stone for You.
I'm liking this picture a lot. I love the black and white treatment. That works very, very strongly. The lighting is very dramatic. I love the grip, and the middle finger and ring finger highlight on the nails are of particular importance. They juxtapose very, very well together, and they kind of lead your eye up to the pointer finger, which goes back to the rock and the thumb. What's going to keep me from giving this picture a 10 is the brightness on the wrist. The wrist brightness needs to be toned down so that the primary brightness is on the hand and the rock. You've got equal brightness on the wrist as you do with the light on the hand. What that implies is that the wrist is as important a subject as the rest. And it's not. The primary focus is the hand and the stone, but I like the wrist as a leading line. So that works, but darken that in, and you'll make this picture even stronger. It's a picture that has a lot of impact. 9 points.
Old Glory.
This is a nice recording, very time appropriate as far as Memorial Day goes. The sepia effect is good. I'm almost getting the impression that it's a double exposure. It looks as if the building itself is almost radiating out of the clouds themselves. Now, I don't think that that's what it is, but it gives that impression because of the lighting. And I commend you for finding that and seeing that. The file looks a touch on the noisy side, the grainy side, as if it was shot with a very high ISO, possibly cropped beyond where it should have been. So I kind of question why you didn't run a little bit of noise reduction. If you look up into the dark gray area in the sky where the flag is, you can really, really see that. A little bit centered, obviously, time of day. Now, you can't lie about the time of day. It was definitely midday. As a matter of fact, it looked like about 1:36 in the afternoon that you took it. So a little bit earlier in the day, you know, more towards sunrise, more towards sunset would be nice. I do like the wind-blown effect on the flag, though. Nice. I'm going to go 8 points on this. I like the sepia effect.
Springtime tulip. That the full image?
There's, I like this leading line of tulips, as the one on the left is a strong vertical. The one in the middle is placed on that diagonal, and on the one on the right is pointing directly to the right. So give me full screen there, Bob, if you can. You wind up cropping some. Command minus, maybe. One click down in size. Better. So that works really well, as does this one leaf that is below the center tulip. I kind of like that too. The stone, it looks as if it was photographed in your backyard with the snow, and that's the stone of your landscaping just doesn't fit in with the theme of the rest of the picture. Compositionally, I like what's going on. I just wish that you would have realized that stone, it just doesn't fit in there. And, you know, filling it up with a little bit of snow when you made the original capture, or cloning over that area with some fresh snow to hide the sandstone piece would have helped. Gosh, 8.5? Can you do that?
Round up.
Yeah, okay. In all honesty, I got to round down, because to me, it just doesn't compete with that shot with the hand, the black and white. So I'm going to go 8.
Okay, Mad Max.
I like the panning effect here. I commend you on that. So, you know, this is one thing that I don't like to say, but I'm going to say it anyhow. So you're in the F8 group, so you haven't been photographing a whole lot of for a long time, and because of that, I commend you for what it is that you've done technique-wise here, and I do need to reward that and bestow it and up the score a little bit for that. The background almost becomes somewhat of a blend. The top area, the highlights, I'd like to see toned down, even cropped off, because those bright highlights, they attract the eye away from this guy on the scooter. But I do like the panning effect. I do like what it is that you did, and I do appreciate the fact that you realize that a nice horizontal panoramic format is going to benefit this image. So I'm going to go 8 3/4, and this time I'm going to round up and go to 9.
Okay. Well, we have 2 9s. So this one, why don't we stay on it, Bob? That's Cliff Stockdill. Cliff, can you hear?
Yeah, Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that was, I mean, absolutely it. I was practicing panning down on Cherry Creek, and this guy, bikes and everything, and this guy came by, and I just thought it was funny, the full body armor, and yeah, it cropped out, some of the bottom, and yeah, made it a panorama. But I see what you mean about the top part of it too.
Cliff, what happens is the brightest part of the picture is always going to attract the eye.
Right.
And the brightest part of the picture is not really part of the subject matter. So when you have something like that, A, darken it down, B, crop it out if you can.
Yep, good point. Thanks.
The other one was also Cliff's.
Cliff paid me big bucks.
So a stone for you. There we go. That's
Yeah, so
Cliff
that's
also.
That's a self-portrait of my hand here in the office. It just took it with the flash and converted it to black and white with knit silver effects. But that was really it, just exposed for the flash, and to get the black background, and
nice contrast with the light, and I like that kind of top lit effect that you created with the flash. That works.
Good photos, Cliff. Why don't we go to the F11 now? We have 19 of them. See, study in black and white.
Okay, I'm speaking about studying, and that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm studying the image to kind of get a feel for the technique that's applied here. Obviously, a diversion towards the abstract, which is good, but yet reality combined with it as far as the figure goes. What I'm really liking is the arch to the figure itself, and then the balance of the heaviness of the figure on the left with this vegetation on the right. The part that I'm struggling with is that flower pot in the top left that to me is not part and parcel in keeping with the rest of the image. It's especially the white, the pot itself with the verticals of the flowers that are growing in it. To me, this picture is solid figure with almost this oriental feel of what I'm seeing on that right-hand side of the foliage and the vegetation. And even that lower right-hand corner with the brightness, because of the effect and the brightness that occurs on the what looks like the right leg of the figure, and on the back of the figure, there's harmony and symmetry in those three bright spots. So that works for me. But then to get caught up into that into that pot is that pot to me just it should not be there. It's what I'm going to call a reluctant 8. I want to be able to give this more of I want to be able to give this a higher score, but I can't. That pot to me is just too much of a distraction.
Have I met you before?
This is not social distancing. So, kind of cute with the sculptures and all. I like, I like what it is that you did there. Fill Flash. If you're not familiar with Fill Flash, please become familiar with Fill Flash. Flash My slogan is it's all about the light. This picture needs more light on the dog in the front. It needs more light on the side of the dog. It needs more light on the face of the dog. The brightest part of the picture is up in the sky, and the sky therefore competes with the dog itself. Compositionally, I commend you tremendously, because the sculpture that's in the background doesn't really merge with the tail, which doesn't merge with anything else, and it's offset against the sky, which doesn't merge with the dog in the background. So placement-wise, perfection. This picture is what's holding this picture back is the light. Look at what's going on in that upper left-hand corner. That darker sky brings your eye right down into the sky. The upper right-hand corner, because it's bright, leads your eye right out of the picture. What do you want to do on corners? You want your corners to be dark to bring the viewer's eye into the picture, not lead the viewer's eye out of the picture. If you learn nothing else from tonight's critique, know that you need to keep your corners dark so that the viewer will be contained within the subject matter in the photo, as opposed to being directed out because of a bright corner. 8 points on this.
Wash day.
So in here, you can see the corners, just what I was talking about. The corners are all dark. They're going to bring your eye into the center of the image. The brightest part is the laundry that's hanging up on the line there. That's good. What I'm seeing here is a lot of like aberrations that have gone to white. If you look around the lantern, right down in the center of the alleyway, and there's these bright areas surrounding the lantern. If you follow the roof line, there's bright areas on the right roof, on the gutter. Now, some of those are part and parcel to the light, but some of those also are what would be considered a processing error, and you want to avoid those. What I would love to see in this image is a figure walking down that alleyway. That would be good. And I would also like to see a lot less sky. Crop it down into that first row of windows on the building on the right, because the area that is up in the sky doesn't have the drama. The sky itself doesn't have that impact. The composition is very much heavier down below where the architecture resides. Sometimes patience is a virtue, and if you can wait it out where you get a participant to walk down that alleyway, that would have been nice. You've already got, obviously, the hand-to-man in here. To put man in there would actually benefit this picture tremendously. 8 points on this one.
A question, sorry to interrupt, this is Oz. Are we losing some of the image at the bottom?
That I don't know. I'm trusting that what it is that I'm seeing here. Oh, okay, yeah, all right. Okay, but so Larry, go back to the full screen on that. Part and parcel, and it even emphasizes more so what I'm saying about the sky, because now there's even more of a bland sky. So this picture definitely works better with, Oz, thank you, with more foreground, but because you included more foreground, it included more sky, which is a detriment. So my comments still apply, but yes, the picture is stronger with more foreground. Larry, let's make sure that before I start to judge each image, that it's supposed to look the way it's supposed to, or Bob, I should say, that it's supposed to be the way that it appears.
So you're staying with the 8 on this one, Russ? 8?
Yeah.
Is that the full image?
That's the
I'm
whole-
seeing the full, if I can see gray background around the entire photo, you see we just lost it. I don't know what's happening. It was there before.
Bob, go back to where you were before.
I'll tell you the title, Russ. It's
That's it right there. That's it right there.
Okay.
Here is looking at you.
Okay. Hey, Bob, just as a heads up, when the image comes up, if you can see the gray Lightroom background behind the entire photo, that should be full frame.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying? Whereas when you hit the button subsequent to this, it cut off the top and bottom. So let's kind of keep that in mind. All right, so this is more of a record shot. It's a recording of what it is that you saw. Photographically, what is it that you did to make this something either abstract or different or creative? This is shot with a flash, so it's pretty much just a straight recording of what it is that you saw. The primary subject here being the wood carving in the middle with the tongue hanging out makes that stand out. But when you see something like this, what can you do to become creative? Try a little camera movement, try a little double exposure, try a little pan blur, try a little zoom the lens while you're taking the picture. Do something when you've got a situation like this to make it your own photograph as opposed to a recording of what it is that you saw. So given the fact that this is just a recording of these puppets, I'm going to go 7 on this one.
Unhinged.
I like this. I like the old with the new. New being in quotes as far as the doorway, the brownish, tannish doorway, yellowish, is newer than the rest of the building. They must have spent a lot of money on an upgrade for that door, I would imagine. It's kind of nice relative to the rest of the building. A little bit of a balance issue, a little heavy on that left-hand side, but it's still nice study in textures. The lighting is perfect for the subject matter itself. Just enough vegetation in the front that tells a story. It shows abandonment as far as what it is that you see on the building and the shape the building is in, part and parcel with the amount of vegetation that's there. So this, I'm going to give this one a 9.
Hey me, watch me.
All right, so I'm trying to piece this together. Looks double exposure wise because I'm just making sure I can't compare the shoes, but I'm comparing the pants, I'm comparing the hat, I'm comparing the earbuds and the sweatshirt and all of that. So, 2 exposures put together, but other than that, and I liked what you did with the outlining too, the rough edge, the torn edge, that's nice. But the the way they're blended, it just doesn't have that impact that I want to see, where it shows the reason why. The reason is obvious as to why it is you chose to put these two images together. 8.
Springtime serenity.
It's simple. It's plain. It's very obvious as to what it is you did, and the composition. Compositionally, it doesn't get any better. I've got to say that. The placement of the reeds in the foreground, juxtaposed with what you've got going on in the background. You put the reeds in that lower third. You've got the cloud reflected in the left-hand side. You've got balance on diagonals. You've got balance on different levels. So there's a lot of things as far as what the eye saw really, really work. But now I got to look at the light. And what does the word photography mean? It's made up of 2 words. It's made up of photo and it's made up of graphy. Photo means light, graphy means to write. So you're writing with light. In this picture, the light is just, it's very ordinary. There's nothing about it that makes me say, oh, wow, look at this. This is really special. This picture really works with this kind of light. The architectural shot that we saw just a couple of pictures ago, where the soft, diffused, kind of bright overcast light worked with the subject matter. This subject matter cries out for light that is earlier in the day, later in the day, not this just kind of soft light that's very, very muted. It needs the impact of wow light, I wish it was there. 8 on this one.
Says LA light fall snow.
Good.
I think the title is just light fall snow.
Okay. You've got a good photographic concept down pat, and that's the use of a leading line. The river itself, as you start down in the lower section of the image, it leads up. It's got framing with the trees as it stair steps all the way through to about the top third. And then you've got those 2 figures walking in the background, which are nice because it gives a little bit of human interest. Technically, let's deconstruct this image. The technical aspect, and with regards to light, take in either too early towards sunset or too late after sunrise. You've got a lot of filtering in sun that is just creating some bright spots on the snow itself. To me, the biggest drawback about this image, especially if you look at that foreground cottonwood trunk, if you look at the bark of that cottonwood trunk in the foreground, it's not sharp. And if your eye, as it travels towards the back, I'm looking for one plane of focus that is tack sharp, and I'm not seeing it. I encourage you to use a tripod when you're doing scenics. I encourage you to use image stabilization. And one thing you've got to have when you enter a photo into a camera club is a picture that's sharp. A picture that shows camera movement That's they need to be sharp. 7 on this one.
Gale force winds on Lake Michigan.
Nice balance with the lighthouse in the center, which then brings your eye out to the left of the primary part of the lighthouse. And what really, really helps, what really makes this picture be in complete balance and harmonious as far as the composition goes, is that seagull. The placement of the seagull is very good. So I commend you for waiting there, because I know that seagulls in this area of the world are extinct, and I know that you had to wait for that one to finally fly into there. So this picture probably was 10 years in the making, so I commend you for that. And that was very good, in all seriousness, guys. The placement of the seagull is perfect, because it creates a third in the right-hand side. It creates almost in the center one of the tall aspect of the lighthouse, and then the main actual house itself out on the left. And the waves are the waves are good. They're dramatic. You caught the tide and the ocean currents at the time that is dramatic. Bright overcast is nice, a little bit of sun filtering through. I'm going to get real nitpicky and just say I'd like to see about the on the right-hand side, 1/8 of the image. Yeah, about 1/8 of the image cropped off on that right-hand side. You really don't need quite as much over there, but I'm still enjoying this picture color-wise, drama-wise. There's some positive things that are going on here. I'm going to go 9 on this one.
Cliff Palace.
Compositionally, you handled the scene well as far as creating layers, as far as creating interest from the lower portion of the ruins all the way up to where the main housing parts exist, and just enough of the top to show a setting and know that the cliff dwelling there has actually ended. That works well. I do like the inclusion of that little bush, just for the sake of adding a hint of color and vegetation down in the bottom. It helps. What did I say? My slogan is, it's all about the light. The light is just, here, it's crying out for shadows and highlights. I'm seeing some bright areas. I'm seeing a few areas of darker brick, but I'm not seeing strong shadows, strong highlights. And whenever you got cliff dwellings, whenever you've got a scene like this, you really need to portray the light in more dramatic fashion. 8 points on this one.
Arches to Sea.
Nice balance, nice color, very nice leading lines. I love the curves. Simple, nice seeing, and color-wise works well. Processing aspect is good. Maybe a little oversaturated on the oranges and pinks and magentas and that area on the right, but still part of the impact of the image. 9. You need a dog, right? Or even a lion on them. Yeah, that'd be nice.
This one's brotherly love.
Okay, you lost, Bob, you lost the top. I'm not seeing a gray border across the top. I don't know what's up there, and I want to give the maker full benefit. There you go. Okay. Cute moment. And I love the tail going on as far as, you know, kind of with his brother or sister. And that's kind of cute. Somewhat centered. I realize that when you see something like this, you get very, very much excited, and you may not realize the tilt of axis of your lens itself. But what you did is you made it cockeyed. It's on. If you can, I don't know if you guys can see my the little thumbnail photo, but you can see the way my hands are, if you can, and you've got the two little cubs going down this hill when it should be a flat surface over here. So, you know, you got to kind of let your excitement be tempered somewhat when you're seeing something like this. It's a cute moment. Again, it needs a little bit of pop in the light. A little bit of fill flash here would have been really, really nice, as far as little twinkle, a little highlight in the eyes. Perhaps waiting for the lead one to take one or two steps further, and this way you would have caught the reflection of it as it went into the water. The fact that you've got the cubs going through the water is great, because these guys do not like to go into the water. So, you know, you've got them in a unique environment. Take advantage of that. One thing that I absolutely implore you to do is, when you go to photograph wildlife, research your subjects, know them inside and out, so that if you see them in a situation like this where they're in water, you just take advantage of it and go to town. But control your emotions and gain the most. Exhaust all possibilities and gain the most, so that you can get the best potential picture. 8 on this.
Along the Porto waterfront.
Good balance as far as the sign with the two figures down in the right-hand side. I like the vegetation growing from that section on the right. The cropping is perfect, as far as just a little bit of water. Where you've cropped the top with the roof line is great. On the left-hand side, just up to that gutter line, that works well. A little bit of the opposite building to the right on the right-hand side is nice. It's got some impact. It's got some balance. The more I look at it, the more I like. So the maker is probably saying, "Well, keep looking at it, Russ. Keep looking at it." And I am. It's a nice image. And okay, I know the only thing that's missing are the letters ERA on the right side, because then you'd have CAM on the left and ERA on the right, and you'd have the word camera, and it would have been absolutely perfect. So next time, wait for a painter to come up there and paint up the letters ERA, and you'd be making out like a bandit on this. In all seriousness, I'm going to go 9 points.
Do not enter.
Do not, no top shelf, not hump. I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. So I'm looking at this picture here, and I'm looking at the title. To me, I like what it is that I'm seeing compositionally, where you've elevated the door and the almost a train coupling. I think it's a train coupling. And on the right-hand side, you've got just the right amount of color of that, right amount of balance of the warm color. So when I look at a picture, I get caught up in the psychological aspects sometimes. And I wish that chain wasn't there, because it's preventing me psychologically from entering into the picture. I know that what you're calling it is do not enter, but what I'm having is this conflict in my mind that I want to be able to enter it. It's that, you know, the guy on my left shoulder is saying one thing, the guy on the right shoulder is saying something else. All right, you know what, I'm just gonna evaluate it photographically. So we've got some letters cut off on the left. The right-hand side is good. The light on the bottom part, I wish wasn't as bright, because, all right, the main thing that's going on here with me is the bottom part below the platform where the door is needs to be darkened down, because the main subject is the door with the chain going across. But yet my eye still goes down to the bottom. That area, that bottom 5th, 6th, needs to be darkened down so that the doorway itself becomes the focal point and more key, and the eye is directed to it. I do really like what's going on in that sky, that light sky blue effect on the arch above the door. That is actually pretty cool. That works well. Overall, if I balance out all of the comments that I just said, I'm going to go 8.
Riding high.
Definitely has motion and action. Works pretty nice. The guy's eyes are soft, yet I'm sorry, the guy's eyes are sharp, yet the rest of the image is soft. So that's kind of cool, as if you're shooting implied action, which creates more action in the image itself. And the placement, you give him plenty of room to surf across the frame, because that's the angle in which the board is directed, which is good. And you've got good spray. 9 points.
Sunrise.
Nice warm light on the mountain peak. A little bright on that one section in the left-hand third, just above the mountain. The sky area itself, the section of the blue up at the top needs to be cropped down just into the dark area of the clouds, so that the ominous clouds show drama. When you put in the blue sky, it takes away that ominous feel. So if you were to have excluded that and just keep the dark sky, it would have created more of a feel to it. This one strong vertical of the tree, given the fact that it's just half a tree, it does create somewhat of a focal point, but then also it creates some tension because it is just half of the tree itself. And it is so strongly weighted in the image. My biggest question is, what is the strongest focal point in the photo? The answer, when I ask myself, is the mountain in the background with the lighting on it. Yet there's so much more extraneous information that is included that I have to take that into consideration when I give it a score. So I'm going to go 8.
You said 8?
8, yes.
By the side of the road.
I like the leading line of the stairs. The somewhat warm color of the leaves is nice. The leaves strewn across the steps work well. Shadows across the door are fairly strong. Actually, the more I talk about it, the more positive things about the image that I'm seeing. 9.
Lost Palm Oasis.
When it comes to composition, one aspect of composition that is of the utmost importance is balance. And you want, if you think of a scale, all right, you know, you're back in science lab and you've got the little balance scale, and you put the 3-gram weight on the right-hand side of the balance beam, and you kind of want to put, when you're taking a picture, a 3-gram weight on that left-hand side, so that when your eye goes to the left-hand side of the picture, and then your eye transitions down to the right, that there's balance. So there's equal weighting on both sides. Because of what's going on in this image, especially with the center, the bullseye kind of effect, the vegetation that's in that center is so strong that my eye gets locked there. And then once I get locked on there and my fixation starts to dwindle from there, my eye gets pulled over to the left because it transitions to the vegetation that's over on that side. When I look down to see what it is that's on the right-hand side, to balance that out, it's the weighting on that left-hand side is so much more that right-hand side becomes too insignificant. And you really want to have equal weight distribution of your subject matter so that when you look at the picture, it feels comfortable from left to right, top to bottom. This picture has too much weight in the center and too much weight on the left-hand side. I got to go 8 on this one.
Pink Moon Beach.
This is, got some nice simplicity to it. I kind of like the effects exposure-wise, real nice. You maintain detail in the moon. The time of day at which it was made, perfect as far as maintaining exposure, detail in the foreground and in the background. A little bright up on the top part of the sky, a grad filter, either in Lightroom or in Camera Raw or in Nik software, or just the burn brush, and darken up that top area of the sky to bring your eye more down to the moon. If you look where the moon is, the sky behind it is darker than the sky above it. You want the sky above the moon to be even darker to bring your eye down to the moon, which then transitions down to the ocean horizon and then down to the beachfront. It's crying out for a boat going across the water. It's crying out for two lovers walking in the sand. It's crying out for a killer whale breaching, taking out a sea lion in midair just as it's jumping over the moon. It needs one more element to bring this to the to a higher score. Let's go 8.
Okay, we have 6, that's the end of the F11s. We have 6 9s that we can review. Let's see, By the Side of the Road by Gwen Patton.
Okay, that's mine, and it was in Michigan, and we have to take a detour off the freeway, and this was in farm country, and there was this great old house. So I was very excited about it. There were a lot of good photo ops there.
Yeah. It's a picture that you got to kind of study, and then the more you study it, the more you appreciate the simplicity of the composition that you created. And it's, as I look at it, I'm really glad I gave it a 9. It's a nice image.
Thank you.
See, the waterfront, along the Portal waterfront, that's Dave Hull.
Russ, thanks very much for your comments. This is actually Porto in Portugal, and we were actually going down the river on this boat, and I saw this couple, and I think I only took 2 images. I just didn't have the time, nor did I have the time to wait for the painter to show up. So,
next time you just wait, or you stop the boat, go out, go to Home. There's a good Home Depot in Porto. I know it very well. Buy a can of paint on, ERA, back in the boat, and it'll be good.
Okay. Point taken. Thanks for your comments.
Again, Gwen Patton, and this is in Michigan, like it says, along Lake Michigan, and they're having a terrible rise in the water level of Lake Michigan, so the beaches are washing away in all these towns along Lake Michigan, and then couple that with the wind, it was just, you got all those waves, so it's a good photographic opportunity, but not good for the residents.
Yes, the surf action is good.
Yeah, this is mine, Bill Dixon. And this is taking it off the pier in LA, and just happened to be a beautiful afternoon on March day. And there's some surfers that come out, and I was practicing taking photos of surfers.
Well, good, Bill.
Practice those more. Nice shot.
Thank you.
Let's see, whose is that? Oh, Arches to Sea, Susan Hafke. Is Susan here? Susan? I guess Susan's not here.
The Greece.
Just,
No, we were driving down to Ensenada, Mexico. And this is a picnic park outside of Ensenada. And these colors were really that bright. So the whole park was kind of painted that way.
Nice composition, very simple.
Thank you.
yeah, Unhinged by Dave Hall.
Yeah, I took this, it was out on the eastern plains of Colorado near Kit Carson. And there's a lot of these old abandoned towns that kind of follow the railroad tracks. You know, they probably were there for a little while and then the railroad moved on and so did they. But this was a real honey hole. There was countless buildings. I probably spent a couple of hours here and I've always liked how abandoned this looked. And you know, I think, you know, shooting it in late fall, early winter kind of added to the whole feel of this image for me.
Yeah.
But thank you for your comments, Russ. Appreciate it.
The black veining around the windows it's a beautiful stark contrast against the wall itself, and that really helps. It's nice.
Thank you very much.
Well, we could take I suggest 5-minute break. We're halfway through, so it took a little over an hour to get halfway through. So why don't we stretch for 5 minutes? Does that sound good to you, Russ?
Fine with me. You know, whatever you guys do as your normal routine, I don't want to break it. So let's, you know, you tell me what it is you want me to do and we'll do it.